Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Um, Thank you, everyone, to have gathered here. It's actually a great opportunity to be on this stage and share a stage with such illuminaries. I have never ever even fathomed that I would be here. Um, the thing is, Pallavas of Kanchipuram was written during a time when I had a very low moment in my life because I'm actually a kidney failure patient. I've had two kidney failures in my life. So this book came at a time and lifted up my spirits and brought me here in front of all of you. So thank you all for being a part of this great moment in my life. The Pallavas are not very much known in today's history. Of course, the Cholas are only now having their moment in history. The Pallavas of Kanchipuram was a dynasty which preceded the Cholas, the imperial Cholas. I'm not saying the ancient Cholas. And what the Pallavas did is something truly phenomenal. As in, we have great kings like Mahendra Varman, then Narsimha Varman the first, we have Narsimha Varman the second, and we have Nandi Varman. Now, the thing about the Pallavas is they traced their genealogy from Ashwathama, who is a hero from the Mahabharata epic. Now, I'm going to behave like the Constitution of India by taking a few snippets from everybody, copy paste, copy paste. So, you see, the thing about the Pallavas was that they were kings, but they focused a lot on trade, basically overseas trade. Uh, when they patronized numerous trade guilds like Manigramam, the Ainuravar, who traveled across the east and to the west, they allowed our Hindu ideas to reach other nations. An example can be seen when we see the Khmer Empire. Today we see Angkor Wat, which is a huge, massive, uh, it's actually the world's biggest temple complex in the world. And in fact, these kings took on the suffix of Varman, which they got from the Pallava kings. This is something which is unheard of and which is not taught in our history today. These kings are relatively obscure, which is why I'm trying to get them out through this book. Now, the thing about the Pallavas is also that I'm going to shed a few a little light on Mahendra Varman. So now the thing about Mahendra Varman is he was the first great king of this dynasty because he brought it out of obscurity after the so-called Kalabra interjanam. We do not know much about that. But what Mahendra Varman did is that he focused a lot on architecture, literature, and basically patronizing Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist ideologies, and he allowed them to flourish in his kingdom. Earlier, he is said to have been a Jain, but fortunately, thanks to the influence of the Nayanar saint Upper, he is said to have converted to Hinduism again. Mainly, he was a Shaiva king, a follower of Shiva. So, if you see his architectural contributions to Tamilagam, I'm taking the word Tamilagam because that's where we are today. That's the land we stand in. If you see his architectural contributions, it is truly phenomenal, and the man made it known. In fact, in the Mandagapat cave temple, which he carved out, he specifically said that he has carved it without using metal, without using timber, without using brick. It's actually a play on words because he didn't make it at all. He carved it out of stone. Now, because you're carving something out of stone, you're not making a structural temple. But this is one of the earliest instances of where we see a man behaving like an ad man. Like he's actually advertising himself to the world that he is here to show what he can do with architecture, literature, with how he can show his ideas to the world. Now, he wasn't just a great architectural patron. He was also a great writer, like us. Like he actually wanted to showcase his ideas in the form of literature also. He wrote a brilliant Sanskrit play called Mattavilasa Prahasana, which uh, it would actually be censored today because despite being an ardent Shiv Bhakt, he actually poked fun at the ideologies of Shaivism. He poked fun at the ideologies of Buddhism. He showed how these two ideologies existed in his kingdom, and he himself authored it. So, having a play like that today would definitely on the ire of some Puritans, I guess. He was quite a philosopher also, and quite a great musician also. Well, he was followed by his son Narasimhavarman, the Narasimhavarman the first, who is who was a bit different from his father. Now, while Mahendravarman focused a lot on literature, architecture, and other marvels, Narasimhavarman wanted to show that he was a warrior. In fact, he even had the name Mamalla in his title. So, actually, Narasimhavarman was we can't say he was a victim of circumstances, but he faced some really trying times during his youth, because when the Pallava kingdom fell, was under siege from its enemies, the Chalukyas, Narasimhavarman was at the forefront fighting a war. Now, we saw earlier panelists state how first you need to conquer your inner self, your inner regions to fight your enemies. So that's what Narasimhavarman did. Where Mahendravarman was a peaceful king, Narasimhavarman rapidly militarized. He found out good people who could be included in his army, and he started forging alliances with the other kingdoms of Tamilagam, thereby uniting it under one solid entity, so that he could launch so that he had a cohesive force against the Chalukyas. What I'm trying to say is, when he fought back, the Pallavas had truly arrived on the stage, because for the first time in their history they went beyond the borders of Tamil Nadu and went all the way up to central Karnataka. So when Narasimhavarman had put all his previous debts to his father to rest, he came back and he ushered in a new era in Pallava sovereignty, where he started commissioning bigger, grander structures in Mamalapuram. Mamalapuram is named after him. It's the city of Mamalla, the great wrestler. So Mamalapuram is like the gateway of the Pallavas to the world. Mamalapuram, it's situated on the sandy beaches of the eastern shores, and it's dotted with these sandstone and granite structures which have stood the test of time despite the erosive events of despite the erosive elements of wind and water. uh, Recently, a couple of years ago, Modi ji brought Premier Xi Jinping also to showcase how Mamallapuram established ties between, served as a bridge between the Indian civilization and the Chinese civilization. Uh, when Narasimhavarman started uh, building up Mamallapuram from the ground up, he uh, he attracted a lot of Chinese attention also in the form of trade, and a lot of wealth flowed into India. So he enriched his treasury, he enriched his culture using those ideas, and he managed to transmit some of those ideas also to China, thereby establishing a dual network. Now, there is one reason why India is called Sone ki Chidiya today. It's not because we have gold deposits as they show in KGF. I mean, but it's because of our demographic capital. It's because our merchants actually went across the seas, braved the monsoon winds, and went all the way to lands like Southeast Asia, all the way to China. They went to Arabia and they brought back gold from there. People from across the seas were willing to pay for our goods in the weight of gold. That's why we are called Sone ki Chidiya today. So that wealth which Priya ma'am spoke of some time ago, it came because of the efforts of our merchants, because of the efforts of our artisans who produced these goods. The Pallava king surely patronized all these people, but their kingdom was not run by the kings. It was run by everyone put together. Some time ago, our panelists discussed the Uttiramirur inscriptions. Now, the thing is, the Uttiramirur village as such was formed during the time of the Pallavas. The king Nandivarman II is said to have given a grant to the village, and this was around 750 AD, 750 CE, Common Era. So the thing is, from there on, we see how the system of self-governance also came about in India. The Uttiramirur inscriptions list out how there was one sabha which was run by the Brahmins, and one sabha which is the Ur, which is how we get the word for city today. And that Ura was comprised of all the other classes in the village. As such, each community in the village had a representative on that Ura village assembly, who could present their respective views and accordingly decide on what was to happen in that village. So if you can see, the Pallavas didn't as such need to administrate wholly themselves. They could depend on these village assemblies to harvest, to collect taxes, and eventually remit it back to the treasury. So these systems are not something which we see today only in our times. These systems, the ideas, they were all a part of ancient times also. There's nothing, maybe technology changes, but the way it's exercised, it doesn't. So while the Pallavas may seem like only a dynasty in a history book, they had a lot to teach us. So that's what I would like to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vignesh ji.